You've been lied to since the beginning. You were told that politeness would protect you, that if you stayed soft, agreeable, and easy to deal with, the world would treat you kindly. That shrinking yourself was the price of peace. But look closely at what that belief has really done. Each time you stayed quiet to avoid tension, each time you swallowed your words to keep the mood light, each time you said yes when everything in you wanted to say no, it didn't bring peace. It slowly erased your presence. And over time, something subtle happened. People didn't become kinder. They became comfortable overlooking you. Here's the truth most people don't want to face. Constant agreeableness doesn't earn respect. It dissolves it. Niceness without strength fades into the background. Silence without intention starts to look like weakness. And eventually, you're no longer seen as kind. You're simply unseen. But Scripture has always known this truth. Let your yes be yes, and your no be no. Not maybe. Not I'll think about it. Not yes when you mean no. Clean, clear, honest. That's not rudeness. That's integrity. And it's time to reclaim it. Part 1. The habit of self-condemnation. There's something you need to understand about the word sorry. It's not just a word, it's a reflex. It's wired into you like blinking or flinching. Most of us say it before we even register what's happening. Someone else walks into you on the street and you're the one apologizing. You raise your hand in a meeting to ask a valid question and your voice already leads with, "Sorry to interrupt." The coffee shop gets your order wrong, and before they can speak, you say, "Sorry about that." And what's wild is that none of those situations actually call for an apology. You didn't cause harm. You didn't violate any sacred rule of life. You simply existed, made a request, or stood up for a need. And still, you felt the need to apologize. Why? Because somewhere along the way, sorry stopped being about remorse. It became a shield, a way to soften your presence, to make yourself more digestible to others. The problem is, when you use sorry like that, you're not diffusing tension. You're lowering yourself. You're telling people often unconsciously, my time, my thoughts, my existence is less important than yours. And that message? It sticks. The biblical reality. From a biblical perspective, this is more than a language issue. It's a dignity issue. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. You were made in the image of God. That means your presence has inherent worth, not because of what you do, but because of whose you are. When you apologize for existing, you're not being humble. You're denying the image you bear. True humility isn't self-erasure. It's seeing yourself rightly neither inflated nor diminished. Do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment. Sober judgment means seeing yourself as God sees you, valuable, worthy, created with purpose. And when you see yourself that way, you stop apologizing for taking up space. The practice: gratitude over apology. So what's the alternative? Replace the instinct to apologize with expressions of gratitude. You walk into a meeting a few minutes late. Instead of shrinking with "sorry I'm late," say, "Thanks for your patience." It's subtle, but it changes everything. The first version asks for forgiveness. The second offers acknowledgement and presence. Or maybe someone helped you out after you forgot something. Instead of saying, "Sorry I forgot," try, "Thanks for reminding me." It lifts the energy. It empowers both sides. You're not asking to be forgiven. You're showing up in a way that says, "I recognize your effort, and I'm not defined by this small misstep." Part 2. The nervous smile. There's a moment we've all felt but rarely talk about. You're in a situation that stings. Maybe someone throws a passive-aggressive jab, or you're cut off mid-sentence in front of others, or your boss points out a mistake in a way that feels less like feedback and more like an attack. And in that moment, what do? You smile. Not because you're happy, not because you find it amusing, but because your body trained over years pulls that muscle like a reflex. That nervous smile becomes your shield. It's your way of saying, "I'm not a threat. Don't hurt me. I'll be agreeable. I'll disappear if you want me to." And yet, ironically, that very smile, that gesture you hope will make things smoother quietly, does the opposite. People don't respect the smile that shows up in the wrong moment. They don't see it as kindness. They see it as confusion, fear, or worst of all, submissiveness. The biblical alternative: steadfast presence. Jesus never smiled nervously. When he was confronted, he responded with truth, sometimes gentle, sometimes piercing, but always grounded. When the Pharisees tried to trap him, he didn't grin apologetically. He spoke with calm authority. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. "Go now and leave your life of sin." Notice, no nervous laughter, no anxious smile, just presence, just truth. That's what you're called to embody, not cold indifference, but grounded clarity. The practice, stillness over performance. You don't need to smile to prove you're okay. You don't need to smile to diffuse every uncomfortable moment. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response, just stillness, just calm, just holding your expression neutral, not cold, not aggressive, just aligned with what's real. You let your face reflect the seriousness of the situation, not to create tension, but to acknowledge it. And in that silence, in that grounded non-reaction, people feel the weight of their own behavior. Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. Grace seasoned with salt, not sugar, not performance, salt preserving, purifying, honest. Part 3. The oversharing habit. There's a strange pressure we feel when we tell someone no. It's like we're not allowed to leave it at that. We feel the need to soften it, to justify it, to make sure the other person isn't disappointed or upset with us. So we pile on the reasons. I can't make it because my cat's been sick, I haven't slept, work's a mess, and my car's acting up again. We turn a simple boundary into a full-blown presentation, hoping they'll understand if we just explain enough. But here's the problem. When you start defending your boundaries like they're on trial, you're sending a message you may not intend. You're saying, "I don't trust this no to stand on its own. I'm asking for your permission to keep it." What you think is being polite or respectful often ends up doing the opposite. It signals doubt. The biblical principle, "Let your yes be yes, Jesus," was clear about this. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. Not because explanation is evil, but because over-explanation reveals that you don't trust your own word to carry weight. Your no doesn't need a defense attorney. It needs your confidence. When you honor your boundaries without dressing them up in apologies or disclaimers, others learn to do the same. The practice, clean boundaries. Start with one sentence. "That doesn't work for me." No tone, no story, no panic. Just say it, then stop. Let the silence speak. You don't need to fill it. You can even add a simple follow-up if it feels too blunt at first. "Thanks for thinking of me though," or "I appreciate the invite." But those are additions, not defenses. You're not explaining. You're closing the loop with kindness, not collapsing into apology. People respect boundaries that are calmly enforced. They don't need drama. They don't need lectures. They need consistency. Part 4. The language of self-shrinking. It slips into your sentences like it belongs there. Almost invisible, almost harmless. "I just wanted to check in. Just making sure. Just a quick question." That one tiny word, just, sounds polite, gentle, and reasonable. But look closely, it's doing something deeper. It's shrinking your presence. It's taking whatever confidence your words held and softening them into suggestion, not assertion. The biblical truth, speak with authority. When Jesus taught, Scripture says, the people were amazed at his teaching, because he taught them as one who had authority, not as the teachers of the law. Authority doesn't mean arrogance, it means alignment. Jesus spoke from a place of deep connection with the Father. He didn't hedge. He didn't apologize for his message. He delivered it with clarity and let it land. That's the model. Not loud, not forceful, just clear. The practice, the 7-day just detox. For 1 week, cut the word just from everything. Your emails, your texts, your voice. Catch it when you say it and stop yourself mid-sentence if you have to. At first, it will feel like you're being harsh. It will feel like your words are too blunt. But what you're really feeling is your power returning. You're reclaiming space you've been giving away for years. And yes, it'll feel strange, but it will also feel strong. You're not erasing politeness, you're erasing hesitation. Part 5. the self-roast habit. There's a strange way we try to connect with people, a habit that hides behind humor, behind relatability. You walk into a meeting and say, "Don't expect too much. I'm terrible at this." Or you mess something up and go, "Ugh, I'm such a disaster today." And everyone laughs. It's harmless, right? Just a joke, just being real. But something's happening underneath that moment. You're branding yourself in front of others, and they're listening. The biblical reality: words shape identity. The tongue has the power of life and death, not just over others, over yourself. When you repeatedly label yourself as messy, forgetful, clumsy, lazy, people file that away. Even if they don't believe it the first time, repetition makes it stick. And over time, your little jokes about yourself become their unconscious perception of who you are. Not because they're judging you harshly, but because you told them that's what to believe. The practice: honor your image. You don't have to pretend you're perfect. You're allowed to have off days, to forget things, to mess up. But don't let those moments define you. Let them pass. Let them be moments, not labels. If you make a mistake, own it, correct it, move forward. And if you're ever tempted to make a joke about how terrible you are at something, pause. Ask yourself, is this joke lifting the moment or lowering me? Most of the time, it's the latter. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. That includes how you talk about yourself. The quiet strength of boundaries: boundaries aren't walls. They're not meant to keep people out. They're meant to protect what's sacred: your peace, your calling, your presence. And when you set them with grace and clarity, something powerful happens. People don't resent you. They respect you, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Guard your words, guard your yes, guard your no, guard your presence, because when you stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant for you, you finally discover the freedom God intended: to stand tall, to speak truth, and to live wholly, not apologizing for existing, just being fully, gratefully, powerfully alive. If this resonated, I'd love to hear which part spoke to you most. And if you know someone who needs permission to stop shrinking, share this. Sometimes the message we need most is the one that tells us we're allowed to take up space. This is Mindset and Grace.